Okay, this video will go through the implementation for a video store, which is very similar to your Lab2, where you keep track of tasks. In this program, I keep track of videos for a video store. So I will use this example throughout this term for the rest of the data modeling samples. So for Lab 2, your requirement states that you must use a struct with an array of structs and be able to read from a file and write the data out to a file when the user is done. So in this file, this is a single file implementation, and as I had posted already, there is a multiple file implementation if you want to take a look at it, but that is not required for this lab. So we will stick to the single file implementation. And if you take a look right at the top, we have the header files that we need. We have our namespace included. Again, you can choose whether to use your namespace or not, but just write code according to that. We also have global constants. And then I have my struct definition. In this case, I have three data members. I have title, I have quantity, and I have the genre. And then if you look at it, we have the function prototypes. The function prototypes, as you notice, I have categorized them into three different categories where I have the tools, which is the two functions that help me read int and read string and does data validation and ignores the new lines and all that, so we get good data. Then we have three menu functions, the display menu function, the read command, and the execute command. So the display menu simply displays the menu. The read command will read the option from the user, and based on the option, the execute command will take the option and do whatever the user wants us to do. So in this case, we will add a video, or we will display a list, or we will search for a video. Those are the only three options, or quit. And if you notice, my execute command will take my array of videos as a parameter, and the size keeps track of the video, the number of the video as the user adds them. And notice it is passed by reference, so we can change as the size changes, it will reflect um, all through the program. So then we have the database functions, where we have load data, write data. Load data loads it from the file when the program runs. Write data writes to the file at the very end when the user is all done and hits quit. Then we have add to list, show, and search. So add adds a video, show displays the list of videos, and search searches for a video. And notice the parameters are all the same. All these functions, all the database functions for that matter, take the array of videos and the size as a parameter. The only difference is the size is being passed by reference to some of the functions and by value to some of the functions. The load data, which loads the data from the file, will change the size as we add to the array. The size, which keeps track of the number of videos, will change. Likewise, the add video, if the user adds from the console, then the size is going to change as well. While the other functions use size and do not really change size, so they are passed not only by value, they're also kept a const, so we don't really go change the actual value in them. So then if we go down and take a look at main, we declare an array of videos, which is your requirement, of the type struct, which is video store, an array of videos. I called it my videos. The capacity is the maximum you can have. And then you start out size at 0 because that's the first element, and as we add, size increases. Load data will load from the file, load all the videos from the text file, and we must have at least 3 items in the text file. And here's my text file, which has about 5 movies in there right now. And then we go into a loop here in our program. After we load, we go into a loop where we display the menu. Then we read the reply from the user using the read command. And then we execute command by passing that reply and the array and the size to execute command. So let's just walk through some of these functions that we have here. here's my read int, which reads an integer. If you notice, I have passed the prompt, so outputs the prompt as data validation. You've all seen this function before. Read string is very similar. It reads the string. It takes the input string, which is an array, and the prompt. It reads the string from the user, and of course, it doesn't return anything, unlike an int, because the input string is an array and it gets passed by reference. And when the user puts something in, it already has changed it. And then if we go down and look at some of our menu functions, starting with the display menu, its job is to simply display the menu. We have 4 options: add, display, search, and quit. The read command reads the reply from the user, which is the next function. All it does is reads the char variable and returns it. Execute command receives that char variable, and you must catch the error. If the user enters anything other than A, D, S, or Q, it should say bad input and go back to main, which will in turn loop back to the menu and ask them to re-enter the input. If it is anything other than that, if it is A, we call add function. If it is D, we call the show function, and so on and so forth. And let's take a look at my load data, which loads the data from the file. Notice we do pretty much, it's self-contained. It does everything in the file. We declare the file stream variable in the function. We open, we do not ask the user for a file name. We have a fixed file name. Whatever you have, you open the file. Check to make sure. If the file does not open, we quit the program. We do exit. We do not give the user more chances to enter another file name. Then we read the data. Notice I read the title of my movie outside the while loop, and then I validate to see if it is end of file. So we use, again, I use getLine, or you can use indata.get. In data, because we are reading from file, getLine will read my movie title with spaces, and I have a semicolon here because the data in my text file is separated by semicolon, so I want to ignore that, or I want to stop reading at the semicolon, and the getLine automatically ignores that delimiter, so we don't have to have an ignore line after that. Then we check for end of file. Then we go into our while loop and we read quantity. We ignore semicolon. We read genre until new line, because that is the end of our data, not until semicolon. If you look at it after the genre, we hit enter and go on to the next line, so we are ignoring new line. And then I increment size, and then I read the title for the next line. The reason I have done it like this, where I have my title outside the while loop, is so it catches any blank lines at the end of the text file. If you don't do it this way, and if there's a blank line at the end of the text file, you might get some errors as it tries to read the data and write it back. So take a look at it, see if all this makes sense. Take a look at how this reads from the text file. So all we're doing is we are reading it directly into my array, my videos of size dot title. That's where we are reading it from the text file. And size starts out at 0. So after we are done reading one line, which is right here, where it is genre, once we are done with this, let me highlight that line here. Once we're done with that, we increment size so it goes on to the next one, and then we start reading the next title and so on and so forth. So when we are done with this function, we would have loaded all the lines from the text file into our My Videos array. And then let's take a look at our add function. If the user says they want to add, here's the add function, which again receives the My Videos and the size by reference. Notice when you add from load data, size would be updated. And so here we call my read string function, where we ask the user to enter the movie title, read it into My Videos of size into our array title. Then we call our read int function and tell them to enter the quantity. And then we call the read string function again and get the genre, and then we increment size. So every time the user says add a video, it's going to go through this function and add a video. And the show video is a very simple function where you simply go through a for loop and output the videos. Notice I haven't done much formatting. You don't need to do any of that. You can just output your videos or your tasks or whatever data it is separated by the semicolon. Then we have the search function where you need to search to make sure that you can find the user's data. And again, we do everything inside the search function. We get the array and the size as parameters. We declare a local search title string, and you tell the user to enter the name of the movie to search for, and you read it into search title, and you go through the whole array using this for loop and essentially do string compare to see if the title that they enter exists in our list. And if string compare returns a 0, which means if there's an exact match, then we output it. We also have a flag variable which helps us track if there was no movies found at all, then it doesn't simply exit without any message. At the end of it, we check our flag. If it is false, that means nothing was found and it says no search result. So it makes a little bit of sense to the user. So if we run this code, if we build it and run it, it will show us pretty much all that is needed from you for Lab 2. Okay, so now let's run it. And notice there's my menu. The first thing I do is D to display to see what I have loaded from my file. And notice I have 5 movies that I have loaded from the file. And then I'm going to say search. For example, I want to search for the test movie. And there it is, it outputs it and it gives me all the information. So if I search for a task and if there's more tasks with the same course name, I should have all the courses or all the tasks for that particular course listed. So if I add another movie called test movie, maybe this is a different genre and a different quantity. So now I have 2 test movies, and if I do search for test movie, I should have both of them listed, which is the way your code should work. So take a look at it. If you have any questions, please do post. I hope this code has been very clear to all of you.